guys, yoongi here, and welcome back to my channel. In my recent full-length channel video, I did a video reacting to K-pop dance moves you guys hate. These were submitted to me on a Google form in my YouTube community tab. I did about half of the songs in part 1, so I'm sorry if yours wasn't included in that, but the rest are all going to be here in part 2. I don't really have much else to say for the intro because we did all the intro for part 1, so without further ado, let's get into it. The first move we're going to look at today is from Somi Dum Dum, the body roll and upside down hand on the eye thing. This person said it just looks awkward. Yes, this one I definitely know I've spoken about before in my K-pop dance moves I don't like video, and I completely agree with you. I mentioned in the video that I've never really seen a body roll like in this way done before, and I didn't really like how it looked. I got so many comments telling me, well, Kai has done this before in and I was like, yeah, he sure has, but I'm still not a fan of the dance move, I'm sorry. I'm kind of impressed because the forward body roll and hand movement do make this part of the song memorable, but I just don't personally find it very satisfying to look at. The next one's a throwback for me, and that is Girls' Generation Run Devil Run. The jumping after the you better run part. I don't know why I don't like that part, but I couldn't make myself like that move, this one says. Better run. I never really thought about this one as something people wouldn't be a fan of, but I think I can understand it. I think it's because the pace of this move is kind of slow and it feels a bit odd to look at. They have to be in the exact perfect time with each other and how they move their legs for it to look satisfying, otherwise it could just get messy. Does that make sense? I don't know. I never really minded it, but I also don't doubt there probably could have been a better move to represent this part instead. That might have been easier to pull off and perfect. We're going to talk about two songs in one for the next point because they were kind of submitted with the same reason, and that is Butter and Dynamite by BTS. I don't think they're awful, I just would have thought that because they were trying to appeal to a new audience and neither of the songs are that challenging vocally, it would have made sense to show off their dancing, but they're both very basic and kind of boring, especially compared to BTS's choreography. Thank you for giving such a great description. I definitely see what you're saying here. It would have been nice to inform everybody in the West of their dance abilities, because I think the performance side of music is one of the very key distinguishable differences between Western pop artists and Korean pop artists. The dance/performance expectations. But at the same time, I think I understand why these choreographies for these songs, including also Permission to Dance, are a bit more accessible to Western audiences. I think that was done on purpose. I think if they had gone full throttle BTS performance legends with the usual choreo style, that it would have potentially alienated a new Western audience who aren't used to seeing that sort of thing with music. I know this sounds stupid and far-fetched, I agree, but you do have to think that way and put yourself in the mindset of a company who want people to stream music for the audio sound, not for the visuals of the dance. In K-pop, the dance side is just as important because they're going to be promoting these on music shows, but that isn't as much as a focus in the West nowadays, so they don't really care about having a choreo that is out of this world. Okay, next choreo we're going to look at is the chorus and outro of Playing with Fire by Blackpink. Oh, see, I'm kind of torn on this one because I always really enjoyed the choreography of the chorus for this song. I don't know why, maybe it's because even for somebody like me who can't dance, this is danceable. The arm movements I always found really fun, but as for the outro, I am with you completely. Especially the first part, it's kind of clunky and lacks a bit of substance, and it doesn't really do anything for me, especially not as an outro to close the song. Part of it then goes into the same as the chorus/intro, and that I guess is fine, but I think the whole outro could have perhaps done with a revamp to make it something more wowing to close the song. This one is funny because I was half expecting it. Soyeon's twerking move in My Bag, and this person says, I'm still not over it. If you wanna sit down, to be like that. Don't worry, I'm still not over this one either. I think I mentioned this one specifically in my video about dances that make me cringe, because that's just the best way to describe it. We can all admit that it's a bit cringe, right? Can't we? I think it's been long enough now that I can also laugh at it in irony. I told myself not to take it too seriously so I can just laugh whenever I see it, and then I can forget about it and still enjoy the song. It was definitely a choice, wasn't it? But hey, it did get us all talking. I admit that was a smart move. We're now going to discuss a move from Twice, Fancy, and that is the chorus part, specifically Ji Hyo's part. Whenever I hear this song, I actually think about the game Just Dance now because I've done that a few times on there. I guess that's relevant for me to say for this video because it sort of changed my perception of the way I view this dance. On the most part, I don't really mind it and I think it's quite creative, but it is not without its flaws, and thank you for mentioning this one particular dance move because yes, I of course don't like this one. See, it's me at it again with my hatred for wobbly like dance moves. They just rarely ever look great in my opinion, and I think this is an example of it, especially in terms of fitting with the rest of the dance. There's so much stuff in this choreo that I enjoy, but this move is not one of them. This next one is another specific part of a dance, and it's the whip it, whip it, whip it part of Shut Down by Blackpink.
Whip it, whip it, whip it, whip it. Whip it, whip it, whip it, whip it.
Yeah, I'm definitely understanding what you mean. I don't necessarily mind the move, but I do think this part of the song in general is hard to make look good, and therefore the dance is going to look a bit meh regardless. Does that sound bad? I'm sorry, I hope you get what I mean. Basically, it's the whole saying whip it, whip it, whip it, whip it part fast isn't exactly great, and therefore as a result of that, neither will be the move that they try to put there to make fit in the choreography. You know what I mean? Next we have one that is familiar, and that is the chorus of Maniac by Stray Kids, specifically that head bopping part that Hyunjin does in the first chorus. I'm really glad that I think a lot of us can agree that yes, although the choreography to this song is interesting, it is also strange. I think I mentioned this choreo in my video of K-pop dances that make me cringe. I'm sorry to be referring to myself so much again. I'm not 100% sure if I mentioned this part, but I definitely remember mentioning a few parts of this dance that stood out for me as being the most visually unappealing to look at. I think it makes sense with the vibe of the song, so I always understood why the moves were choreographed this way, of course, but I think it's just for us as viewers, it's not always as cool as it's supposed to be in execution, you know? I can't believe I'm about to say this is a throwback, but this is a throwback. God, how old am I? In BTS's We Are Bulletproof Part 2, when they lift their shirts up, I mainly didn't like it because Jungkook was a minor at the time when they did that choreo. Yes, this one I fully agree with. I think it links back to how we were discussing idols grinding on the floor in the previous video and how it made me uncomfortable, and this one also makes me uncomfortable too. They did not need to have them doing this. Like you said, Jungkook was so young here, and so were Jimin and V. I'm pretty sure I remember reading somewhere that Jimin had mentioned in the past that it did make him a little uncomfortable always being the one who had to lift his shirt up in their earlier days, because he had to do it quite a lot. He was so young at the time, and because he was doing all of that, it put a heck of a lot of pressure on him to always make sure he was trim and in shape and had the abs, and that upsets me because as a fan I don't want them to be uncomfortable. Screw the fan service, I would rather my faves be happy and comfortable on stage. Next, moving on to the punching part in ASAP by Stacey. This might be an unpopular opinion, but does anybody else find it awkward and weird? Yes, it might be an unpopular opinion, but that's because I spoke about it before and I remember getting a lot of mixed responses. I think I said in the past that I found it a little bit awkward too, and some people agreed, whereas others said they loved it. A lot of people made the point in the comments that it was kind of difficult to do right, so if done wrong it can look bad, and that may play into part of why some of us don't like it. That would be fair and makes sense. But yeah, this one has been quite an opinion divider in the past, I know that, and even though a fair bit of time has passed since this dance and song came out, I'm still with you on this one. It never quite grew on me. Next one we're looking at is the choreo to La Lisa by Lisa, and the person who submitted this one said it was very much for TikTok and didn't highlight her talent as a main dancer. I couldn't agree more on this one. Part of me likes that the choreo is, I guess, simple and replicable. It's nice that people can get involved, but that only goes so deep. And for somebody known for being such an incredible dancer, it is frustrating that she didn't get a chance to showcase more of that in her solo debut. This was her time to finally take center stage and shine. We've all seen what she can do, but now it was her time to prove it as a soloist, and she didn't get to. There is this obsession now with every dance being used for TikTok challenges, and because of that, we're low-key being robbed of some potential absolute banger choreos for songs that could look so good with them. I'm willing to bet if you asked Lisa to freestyle over La Lisa, she would come up with something more impressive than what we were given on the spot. Next up is the bridge of God's Menu by Stray Kids, where it's Felix's part. I don't think I've ever heard anybody mention this one before. I think it's the Stray Kids effect again, in the sense that some of their choreographies can be so unlike anything we've ever seen before. I personally didn't really mind this move. I kind of thought this whole choreo was fun, and I liked how this part it like changed angles and levels, but a lot of Stray Kids dances can be hit or miss for everybody, so even though I wasn't expecting to see this one, and I'm personally okay with it, I can see people's point when a Stray Kids dance isn't one they're keen on or that they could resonate with. This next one technically doesn't reference a song, so I did a little bit of research and guessing. I hope I'm right. It says, I don't know how to describe it, but it's the pre-chorus part. In the first pre-chorus, it's Jisoo, and then in the second, it's Rose. It's like where they do the follow the leader kind of thing. Hands up to the knees, and then they feel their butts. Okay, am I right in thinking this is from Blackpink Do 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 Do? Your description was really great, don't worry. I could visualize it in my head, so I think we're on the same page. I actually really like this part of the dance. I don't know why. I think it looks better when there's multiple people doing it because you have like the canon of one of them starting and then going one after the other, but it's probably not as effective watching one person do it. So in that sense, I definitely understand thinking it could look a little weird, and I probably wouldn't like it either. But as a group piece, I think it looks kind of fun. I've done this with friends in the club and it's always a blast. I like that the aspect of some Blackpink choreos sometimes have that like team aspect where you've got to do things together. Next up we have the age ceremony, and it says, I forgot the artist, but I think we all know what I mean. The idols who get to 18 perform this song. Don't worry, I know exactly the song you're talking about. The viewer here is referring to Adult Ceremony by Park Ji-yoon, and I agree with this one so strongly. The video in which I talked about my hatred for this song is still my most viewed to date. Please check that out if you want to hear why this song is in such poor taste. But for this part in particular, we will discuss the dance. The whole idea that idols who turn 18 years old then covered this dance is crazy. It is very sexualized, and the fact they have newly fresh 18-year-olds cover something so sexual to sort of announce their adulthood always sits badly with me. I really don't think Ji-yoon herself was ever comfortable with doing this sort of thing, and I don't blame her. It's an overly sexualized song with a very overly sexualized dance, and we could do without it. Next song we're going to discuss is Ditto by New Jeans. This one just mentions the dance in general rather than a specific part, and I can resonate with it. I think it's confession time. Not long ago, I posted a poll to my community tab asking people what their favourite New Jeans song is this far, because I was curious to see how many people were almost so weren't in the same boat as me. A lot of people love this song, and it's gone so successful, I know that, but I personally don't like this song. I'm sorry, I know. It's just, I've never been on the hype train for it, I'm afraid. It's not my kind of song. I see that there is an appeal, but it doesn't appeal to me. And the choreography is no exception here. There's like whole huge parts of it that I don't really suit the vibe of the song as well as they could. The song to me has quite a chill vibe, whereas there are parts of the dance that I feel are doing too much for the flow of the song, and I think it could have been tackled a little bit differently. Our next one says Nature Rika Rika, the boingy bit at the beginning. Ah yes, this one. I have war flashbacks. I mentioned this in my video of K-pop dances I thought were cringe because I'd seen so much debate online about the cultural appropriation behind the whole concept, but I did not know it stretched as far as the dance too. So when I spoke about how I was not a fan of the dance, I did not know at the time that it was a traditional African Zulu dance. I'm really sorry I did not know that. I still think it was completely inappropriate for them to use it in this song. The whole everything about this song / era / choreography were just wrong, not right. Their team really should have gone back to the drawing board with this one, or better yet, released something that didn't offend multiple cultures. The next song has been given to us twice, pardon the pun, I promise it really has, with two different parts, and the song is Alcohol Free by Twice. Somebody mentioned the beginning and kind of the first verse, like the end of Nayeon's part and early in Mina's part, and somebody mentioned in particular the butt shaking part in the beginning of the chorus. They found it weird. I can talk about both of these points in one because even though they're different parts of the song, my opinion is the same for like all of this dance. And it just doesn't really do it for me. The song, although I know some hated it, I didn't mind. I thought it was fun. I like that it was a different concept for the girls and it was summery and pretty, but the dance is quite lackluster in places. Like they wanted to give us something light and summery, but they didn't really know how to create a choreography that matched the song well. When they released the summer banger Dance the Night Away, it was a bit more upbeat and easier to choreograph to, but this one felt a lot more like a miss for me, I'm afraid. Next up is The Weird Flappy Arms in Blue Flame by La Seraphim. This person said, I have an unnecessary hatred for this part. I'm not gonna lie, I think I listened to this song maybe once and then forgot about it. So when I watched back to find the specific move you were talking about, I was like, oh my god, the chorus is like 80% arm movements. That's so crazy. But then when it happened, I knew exactly the one you meant. It's giving bird. I don't mind that the rest of the arm movements in the chorus are there, even though there's a lot, but yeah, I'm with you on this one. Out of the 10 arm movements, or however many there are, this is the one that I think fits the rest of them the least and kind of looks a bit more jokey than the rest of them. Does that make sense? It's like they managed to sneak this one campy move in there and were trying to pass it off like it was the same as the rest. It didn't really make sense. We're also going to look at TXT No Rules, the post-chorus from minute 0:58 in the dance practice. And this one says, I just feel uncomfortable seeing the dance moves. This is another song I didn't really know very well. I'm gonna hand in my MOA card right now. Nah, I'm kidding. This is not really my style, but as soon as I saw you mention the song, I did think I knew what you meant you were referring to. And if I'd have thought about it sooner, I'd have also included this one in a video talking about dances that made me cringe, because it's cringe. It's the waving the arms up and down move for me. They're so perfectly in sync that they can pull it off, but I can just not imagine this looking good on like an individual doing this cover, you know? It's not as impressive as if you were covering it in a full group as an individual, you know? So although I feel that TXT can make this one work, I don't know if anybody else really could. And last but not least, I want to talk about a choreo/move we were given not once or twice, but 4 times. I think we got this the most out of anything. And one of them has a bit of a longer description for us to discuss that I thought it'd be nice to end on. The song in question here is Girls by aespa. One person mentioned the entire choreography, a couple mentioned the chorus in general. Okay, let's discuss the actual Girls by aespa point here before we move on to the longer point we were given as well, because a few people wanted to talk about this. It is interesting that every person who mentioned this choreo wanted to talk about similar parts, and for me personally, as someone who loves the song, I also agree I do not like this part in the choreography. It does not look great. I'm not sure if it's because the move itself is hard to perfect, because it is, but also it's very easy to do it slightly differently in ways and not necessarily be wrong, but because they aren't all doing the same, it doesn't look right. Although SM artists can dance, SM is not a company renowned for making its artists scrutinize every millisecond of their dancing. And ironically, I think that would have come in really handy here. Some of the girls bounce their knees at different heights, move their hand box they've made to different widths, and it quickly becomes quite messy and there's no like rhyme or reason. As a point dance move goes, it is different, I'll give them that. I've never seen anything like it before, but I don't think I would really want to see it again unless it had been like perfected. Now, as a nice way to summarize this video, let's look at the longer point we were given about current choreographies in general. This one mentions first the chorus of girls from aespa, but then it goes on to say, in fact, the choreographies of groups of this generation are very weak and boring in both girl groups and boy groups. There's no more complex choreographies or anything beautiful to look at or really artistic nowadays. People are only thinking about dancing to be a hit on TikTok. I'm not trying to generalize, there are still groups with cool choreographies, which can be creative, such as Limbo from Nature, but only a few groups of this generation care about doing good choreography at the same time as well crafted and easy to learn. But I don't think we'll have any more groups that debuted from 2020 onwards with such beautiful choreography like that of Closer from Oh My Girl or Falling Flower from 17. It's not hate, just a rant and constructive criticism. Okay, now time for my thoughts on this. Thank you for kindly sharing your thoughts on choreographies of this current generation. I would love to discuss this because I think it's a nice point. Don't worry, I didn't feel a hateful tone coming from your rant at all, and I completely condone constructive criticism here on my channel, especially when we're discussing K-pop, because I said it 1,000 times and I always stand by this, but this is the only way we can make things improve. And it brings us back to this topic again that I discussed in the part 1 of this video and a little bit in part 2 here, and it's the idea of making dances TikTok or social media friendly. It's a shame because part of me wants to believe that dances are being choreographed with a simpler move frame to make it more accessible to a wider audience, but it's not that. It goes further. They're being choreographed to be more accessible to a wider audience who can help make the song go viral and get more attention. They're not being choreographed this way with our best intentions in mind as viewers. It's all about what will earn the most money, which is fine. I understand the industry, but it's just strange because there's so much scrutiny towards 4th gen idols and their ability to dance, but then they aren't really being given the opportunity to develop their skills. I don't know, it's kind of weird to me. If a group has a more creative choreography, people can argue it's weird and we don't like that, but if their choreographies are more basic, we don't like that either and it's not interesting. I get it's kind of like being stuck between a rock and a hard place, and you can't please everyone. Personally, I think I would rather a choreography be a bit more experimental and risk being perceived as strange instead of being basic, so TikTok dancers will use the audio. But as with everything in K-pop, it does go through cycles, so who knows, depending on how TikTok continues to grow or depletes, I think that will influence what we see in K-pop choreographies. As we've seen in this video, you can get so many mixed opinions on K-pop dances depending on who's perceiving it, so who knows, I think our opinions will continue to be divided in the future as well. Okay guys, and that was it for today's video, and we have now gone through all of the dances that were given to me in my Google form to react to. Thank you so much for everyone who submitted something. Honestly, I had so much fun doing this. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Now I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below, so please let me know if you agree with any of these or if there's any other dances you'd like to talk about. If you're new here and haven't yet subscribed, please hit the subscribe button down below and turn on the notification bell. And as always, my social medias will be on screen. That is my Twitter and my Instagram. I always follow back fellow K-pop fans, so let's be friends, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys!